Local programming on KRWG made possible in part by viewers like you. Thank you. This is KRWG, TV, radio, online, news that matters. Next on Newsmakers, the push to outlaw wildlife killing contest in New Mexico, plus a former Aggie basketball player's journey off the court, an unforgettable story in his own words. And later, in focus, a conversation with the president of the Islamic Center of Las Cruces. Thanks for joining us on Newsmakers. I'm Fred Martino. In the New Mexico legislative session, there is an attempt to outlaw wildlife killing contests. While some say the competitions are needed to address coyote populations threatening livestock and pets, conservationists say the events are inhumane and an unnecessary blood sport. As Simon Thompson reports, if the bill passes, New Mexico would be the first state to outlaw the competitions completely.
Retiree Jim Schmidt worked with the USDA for 10 years in Arizona, with a specialization in coyote control, trapping and hunting coyotes posing a threat to livestock, private property, and pets.
These animals are very prolific. They kill and eat everything.
Now in retirement, Schmidt organizes the World Championship Coyote Calling Contest. Schmidt says ranchers and hunters have been using social events and hunting competitions to address out-of-check coyote populations since he was a kid.
Back in the 60s, when the farmers were pumping gas into our Jeep, thanking us for being there to help them. They would feed you lunch, or there was always some kind of incentive to come out and be involved in that. So through the years, those events have continued to go on, and they still go on today with those kind of compensations.
Nowadays, coyote hunting competitions happen in almost every state. Skilled coyote callers and marksmen can walk away with cash prizes in the thousands. According to news outlet Penn Live, a contestant walked away with more than $10,000 in winnings at a 2015 competition in Pennsylvania.
To see them killed for the pleasure of humans competing for cash prizes, it's just wrong.
Southwest Environmental Center Executive Director Kevin Bixby stumbled upon 39 bloodied coyote corpses dumped following a competition outside of Las Cruces in 2014.
It's pretty horrific to see that many coyotes piled up in one place. And these animals. These are mammals. They're intelligent creatures. They have social bonds. They have family bonds.
Many hunters are guided by the North American model of wildlife conservation. It pushes ethics that wildlife should only be killed for legitimate purposes, like hunting for food, fur, or the protection of property, or to protect pets or livestock from attack. Bixby says he can tell when coyotes were killed for competition's sake.
So this was a piece of PVC pipe that we found in the jaws of one of the coyotes that had been killed in a killing contest. It says dog 2, dog meaning coyote, December 20th, 2014, the day it was killed, 10:03 a.m. and the time. So this is the way that the organizers of these contests try and control cheating.
Schmidt says in his competitions, the coyote furs are taken and sold or made use of. He also alternates his competitions' locations to address areas where coyotes pose a threat. Bixby says while the events have developed and evolved, so has coyote management science. He points to research from the University of Nebraska indicating that mass eradication of coyotes doesn't control populations, but in fact can actually increase them. New coyotes move into cleared areas, competitions can increase female breeding, and constant killing keeps the population in a younger, more productive state.
Coyotes are extremely adaptable. They have adapted to human urban environments. They are living amongst us, and there's nothing really we can do about that. We can kill them all we like. They will keep on returning because our cities provide coyotes with what they need: food, shelter, etc.
Traditionally, coyotes have been seen as a pest. Unlike other animals hunted in the US, there are few regulations or limits on when and how many can be killed. Bixby is hoping a bill in the New Mexico state legislature could change that. It would ban wildlife killing contests.
It would be a more sweeping ban than any state has implemented thus far.
California has already taken action, prohibiting prizes for wildlife killing contests. As a result, Schmidt says he no longer hosts events there.
They won't allow us to give out trophies or anything like something. You can't even give them a pencil.
Neither California's law nor New Mexico's proposal would stop coyote hunters like Schmidt from being able to protect private property or livestock. In fact, people would still be allowed to kill coyotes for sport, but not in a formalized competition. But Schmidt says that's not his prime concern. He says the laws are part of a larger campaign to completely prohibit hunting of coyotes and other wild animals.
And what is really going on here is this was an anti-hunting movement. They don't really care about coyotes. They want to stop hunting, and this is step one.
Whether the law passes in New Mexico or not, Schmidt says competitions will continue. Bixby says there are coordinated pushes to ban or limit killing contests in Nevada, Arizona, and Colorado. But he wants the land of enchantment to be first.
Well, this is where New Mexico has a chance to make history.
For KRWG, I'm Simon Thompson.
And Simon Thompson joins us now in studio. Simon, how have wildlife and in particular coyote killing contests become so widespread in recent years?
So these competitions have spread in the same way that the coyotes have. Coyotes were once kind of confined to the southwest or the west, and now they've spread all over the country. They're not just in rural areas, they're in the suburbs and even on the outskirts of some cities like Los Angeles. There's no limits on how these coyotes can be hunted, unlike elk or turkeys. You know, there's no limitations on the weapons you can use to hunt them, how many you can kill, and the season and time of year when you can hunt them. And then also there's this element of, you know, there's good money in it for organizers. So gun shop owners or people who host these events make a lot of money, and also the people who win take home a lot of money as well, as was mentioned in the report.
You know, I was very interested in the fact that even though these killing contests are popular, you had a lot of difficulty finding hunters and organizers who participate in the competitions. Tell me why you think that is.
Yeah, I mean, there's a general kind of popular opinion is not in favor of these events. There's a feeling that they're kind of immoral, or they kind of defy the fair chase principles of hunting, that, you know, the animal has to have a fair chance to get away. So a lot of hunters are against these events, and they think that the events give hunting a bad name as well. You know, there's a lot of photos that circulate on social media of, you know, these mass dumping sites of coyotes that have been killed in these competitions, and, you know, a lot of coyote hunters think that that really gives them a bad image.
And also the notion that if you're going to hunt, that there must be a use of the animal to eat, to use the pelt.
Yeah, certainly there's a lot of hunters that would only hunt in the case for if it was to eat the food that they get from the animal, or to take the fur, or, you know, in the cases of protecting their livestock or perhaps their pets or their property.
And of course the gentleman you interviewed said the pelts were used in his competition.
Yeah, so you know, I'm not sure. I tried to, there are people who buy coyote furs and pelts, but it was hard to kind of ascertain how much of that goes on after each competition.
Tell me how the competitions actually work.
So they're kind of sporadic, and, you know, they're done over a big space. It might be over 3 days or a weekend, and various teams or single competitors will go out in trucks and basically track coyotes. Maybe they'll set up a device that makes the sound of a rabbit or an animal in distress, and then, you know, they'll try to kill as many coyotes as possible, or they'll try and get the biggest coyote. Maybe they'll try and get the ugliest coyote. There's various categories that they can kind of win in, and some of them are very formalized. You know, there's big money. Others might just be a couple of friends kind of, you know, competing against each other, like someone might play pickup basketball on the weekend or something.
Okay. If the bill passes in New Mexico, what will that mean for contests here?
So from everyone I've spoken to on both sides of the issues, they think that the competitions will still continue, but they'll be a lot more informal, and that there won't be big prizes, there won't be big kind of events associated with them. Gun shops and kind of ammunition sellers won't be able to use these events to promote their products. But on both counts, when you speak to conservationists, they kind of quietly say that this is one step in the direction of kind of putting further restrictions on hunting coyotes. As you can still hunt coyotes, you can still kill them from fun. You could still kill them for fun. It's just the competitions and the formalized events that would cease.
Okay, well, I know you'll stay on this, and we'll probably have an update once we hear more from what the legislature decided. You get to do a lot of variety in your job, a lot of different types of stories, and this week is certainly an illustration of that, right?
Yeah, so we now go to a story from a former NMSU Aggies basketball star, Sean Harrington. Harrington is a championship coach in Chicago. We take a look at how the city's gang violence has impacted his life and his work with students and young basketballers.
Basketball was that thing that kept me away from the gangs and the drugs that I grew up around. Because when I grew up in high school, it was just as bad, if not worse, in Chicago as it is now. But sports was that one thing: basketball, football, baseball. You can go into these quote-unquote bad communities, tough communities, gang-infested communities, and play these sports without having to worry about being bothered or being jumped or being bullied or things like that. The history and tradition of our program of not just of winning, but graduating our student athletes and sending them on to college, that's our biggest thing we hang our hat on, more than the banners and the winning, that as a program. Basketball helped pay for my education. I come from a middle-class family, and my family wasn't able to pay for me to go to school, to come to Las Cruces, and be able to afford to go to school full-time, that far away from home. So basketball afforded me to get that education, and basketball paid for me to get 2 degrees. Getting a chance to work there and help some kids in our community. We ended up winning a city and state championship in Chicago, city of Chicago, state of Illinois. So I work with special ed kids there in the classroom, giving them just extra support in the classroom with their assignments, and assist teaching in the possible way I could. As my foundation is, no books, no ball. You have to take care of their education first. In any major city, there's gang violence, but as we all know through the media, it's, over the last few years, Chicago has had more than our fair share. A regular routine on my way to work, and drop my daughter off at school, and the car I was in was mistaken for somebody else's car, and me and my daughter became under fire by a barrage of bullets. Just 2 guys shooting at the car, and I pushed my daughter down and covered up my body as much as I could, and in doing so, I was shot twice in the back, and one of the bullets fractured 2 vertebrae in my spine and paralyzed me from the waist down. It's changed my life tremendously. Every day still presents a different challenge. I'm still learning how to live life day to day as things go by. I have a lot of good days, but a lot of bad days. But I can definitely say I've been blessed so far. As far as it changing the way like I said, me playing basketball and coaching basketball, I've always been a hands-on guy, so sometimes that kind of gets me emotionally. That I can't be that hands-on guy to jump in the middle of practice or a drill and be able to show the kid the proper way to sit down and play a passing lane or how to close out on the ball and just different technical skills and things like that. So not being able to be that hands-on coach like I always used to be. We can start there with, I guess, gun control, stiffer gun laws, definitely. Definitely for repeat offenders, things like that. Or, I mean, once we get they're definitely going to have to get better gun laws in the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois, and that can be a start. Guns are so easy, they're easier to get. I mean, a 12-year-old kid, and just about any city, any major city in America, can probably find a way to get his hands onto a gun. So thank God for that. And so far, I haven't been able to return to work yet. My position requires me to be on all 3 floors in the classroom. And Marshall, like I said, is so full of history into this, but it's a real old school. Marshall's been open since 1895, and they don't have elevators or anything in the school. Oh, it's making me want to help even more. If me sharing my story could help reach out to a kid or encourage someone to do the right thing or to put a gun down or encourage a kid to pursue their education, by all means.
Hello and welcome to In Focus. I'm Anthony Moreno. A Pew Research Center report estimated that in 2015 there are around 3.3 million Muslims of all ages living in the United States. Here to share more about the faith is President of the Islamic Center of Las Cruces. Please welcome Mr. Radwan Jalad. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Anthony, for inviting me. Appreciate it.
Well, it's great to have you. And I'd like to start off if you could give our audience a little bit of history of the Islamic Center of Las Cruces.
So the Islamic Center of Las Cruces got established in the early 80s. As our location is on 1065 East Spouts, it used to be a small home. And it started with a group of students who came to New Mexico State University, and they wanted a place to worship. So in the early 80s, they bought the property and they turned it into a mosque. And the history continues. And in the mid-90s, we all got together and raised fund and built the structure as it is today. The Islamic Center, this is probably one of the largest number we have. Our community is kind of, the majority of the community is student that goes to New Mexico State University. We have a lot of residents, but if I have to guess a percentage, I would say we're about 30% resident in this town and 70% student. So currently we're estimating about 500 Muslims in Las Cruces, but the majority of that is student, that they'll come and go. So the dynamic of the mosque is really, even though over the years we have people settling in, there is a lot of New Mexico State professors, a lot of medical doctors, professional moved into town. So basically the mosque established is, the establishment of the mosque back in the 80s was important because most of these Muslim families will consider a town before they move to, if there is a mosque or not, for multiple reasons. What is, for their kids to learn little Arabic, for continue with their religion. Like you stated, there's 3.3 million. New Mexico is not one of the states that host a lot of Muslim, but I believe between us, Albuquerque, Santa Fe, and Gallup, actually, for surprising to me, is we're probably over 4,000 people in New Mexico. The center in Las Cruces is being established to serve these communities, if it's a new coming professional or a student who's coming here for a few days.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, what is the mission, and what are some of the things that the center offers to connect with the community and those of the faith?
So the mission of the center, we started until recently. We started as just to establish a religious institution, a place of worship. Little bit of activity for the youth. We have our Sunday school that basically focus on the youth, make sure they learn their religion. We teach a little Arabic because most of the religious document is based in Arabic. So many people would like us to do some Arabic, and it's very hard to do. I mean, when you're talking about 3 hours, we rely on the families a lot because the schooling's really at the home. The mosque use Sunday school is just to get the kids to work together and see they're all interested in learning the same thing. So the mission is worship, place of worship. People come. I don't know. Many people might not know, but Muslim comes and pray 5 times a day. So we need to establish the place, even though Friday is our main prayer time and it's at noon, just like Sunday prayer. Everybody comes to that prayer. We have about like 200 to 300 people shows up. Also, we pray 5 times a day, so people coming in at a different time to pray, not in that number. We're lucky to get 2, 3, 4, 5, in the teens for the other prayers. So it's basically a place for Muslim to meet. The Muslim in Las Cruces is like United Nations. We represent like 21 countries.
Wow. Could you just share with us, some of the countries that...
I mean, you get, you go from Bangladesh, Pakistan, Syria, myself, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Turkey, Nigeria, Kenya, many of the other African nations. Plus, we have a lot of U.S. citizens who born in the United States. We have New Yorkers and and D.C. and Maryland folks who moved into this town. But so the dynamic of the mosque and establishes also is a very good experience for everybody. I forgot Yemen. There's many people from Yemen in the Las Cruces, and professionals and students. The fact is, it's an opportunity in the United States. You will never see that in Syria happening or any other country.
I see.
It's just the poor of New Mexico State, brings all these students, and those who's Muslims, they come to the mosque and they interact. So it's an education, it's a global education for everybody. And it's a global education on how to communicate different cultural setting, even though we're all Muslim, but we're all different.
Well, I know there's got to be a lot of curiosity about the Muslim faith from the community as well. Since you've been here since the early '80s, I was wondering, have you seen more curiosity in recent years from the community and wanting to learn more about the faith, or have questions regarding that?
Yes, the answer is yes. In the past, we're pretty close. I mean, we're all volunteers. We don't have a religion leader. So we don't have an imam or anybody at the mosque. So we're all professional. We have work, and this is all volunteer work. We did not do a lot of outreach at the beginning, but in the last few years, we've been encouraged by the community. From churches, we did a lot of work with Peace Lutheran Church that gave us a lot of involvement, put us in a position to get involved with the community, educate the community. And the reaction was really touching, because we realized how bad of a job we did by not outreaching to the Las Cruces community. Las Cruces being one of the most comfortable place for Muslim. We have never seen a problem.
Interesting.
We all neighbors are friendly. Everybody's friendly to us, actually, and helpful. But in the last year or so, we realized that there has to be an action being done, and we have established a new group called the Outreach Group. Kind of blend the
Well, I
title.
definitely want to hear more about that as we continue our conversation. Right. However, if you could just let us know how we can find out more information about the Islamic Center of Las Cruces. Where can folks go?
So, well, we last year, for an absence of several years for whatever reasons, we reestablished our website.
And what is the website? We don't have too much time.
No, it's okay. It's icolc.org.
Okay, and are you on Facebook as well?
And we are on Facebook.
Okay.
Right now.
Well, I look forward to continuing this conversation, because we have plenty of questions for you, but unfortunately we're out of time right now.
Okay.
So we will continue on another In Focus, and we want to thank you for joining us. I'm Anthony Moreno.
That's our time for now. Join us this week on KRWG Radio. Every weekday, it's Morning Edition, 5 to 9, Fresh Air at 11, followed by Here and Now, noon to 2, and All Things Considered, 4 to 7. KRWG News is always online at krwg.org, and we'd love to hear from you. Email us with your story ideas and video submissions. The address is feedback@nmsu.edu. Have a great week. We'll see you next time on Newsmakers.